What if I told you that the creature responsible for fewer deaths per year than jellyfish, vending machines, and horses combined has been painted as the villain of the ocean for over a century? What if I told you that sharks, those ancient predators that have survived 5 mass extinction events, are actually gentle, methodical, and honestly, pretty boring neighbors in their own domain? I'm talking about creatures that have roamed Earth's oceans for over 450 million years. To put that in perspective, dinosaurs hadn't even evolved when the first sharks were already patrolling the seas. They've survived the Permian extinction, the worst extinction event in Earth's history, where 96% of all marine species died. Yet here we are, terrified of an animal that's statistically more likely to ignore you than interact with you. Tonight, I'm going to share scientific facts that will completely rewire how you think about these creatures. By the time we reach the end of this journey, you'll understand why one of the most efficient predators in nature is actually one of the most relaxing, peaceful subjects to contemplate as you drift off to sleep. Before we dive deeper, pun absolutely intended, I need to know where you're watching from. Are you in bed right now? At your desk? Commuting? Drop a comment with your country and what time you're joining me. And if you're enjoying this journey so far, hit that subscribe button. You're about to hear facts that you've literally never heard before, and I promise you'll want more of this content. #1. Sharks have existed through 5 mass extinctions. The odds that they're as dangerous as Hollywood portrays them? Almost zero. In fact, you're more likely to be struck by lightning than encounter a shark, and if you encounter one, you're more likely to survive than not. Let me ask you something. How many different types of sharks exist in the ocean? Take a guess. 100? 200? The answer might surprise you. There are over 500 species of sharks currently living in our oceans. 500, and yet, how many can you name off the top of your head? Most people say great whites, hammerheads, tiger sharks, maybe a nurse shark if they're feeling ambitious. This is where we begin to understand the fundamental truth. We fear what we don't know. Think of it like this: imagine judging all humans based solely on professional boxers. That's what we've done with sharks. We've taken one species out of 500 and made it the poster child for all of them. Dr. Eugenie Clark, the legendary shark scientist who conducted decades of research beginning in the 1950s, made a discovery that changed everything. She found that sharks in their natural habitat were curious, yes, but far more cautious than aggressive. She spent years swimming with sharks, observing them, and she discovered that the man-eater narrative was largely fiction. What she found instead was a creature of remarkable restraint and pattern-following behavior. Here's the thing that should relax you. Most sharks are small. Really small. The dwarf lantern shark is about the size of your hand. The smallest species, the dwarf dogfish shark, is roughly 17 centimeters long. That's about 7 inches. These creatures are basically the aquatic equivalent of rabbits. They're not hunting apex predators. They're just existing peacefully in the dark. And even the big ones, the ones we fear, operate with an efficiency that's almost mathematical. They follow patterns. They have routines. If you understand a creature's pattern, you understand its peace. And sharks, my friends, are creatures of extraordinary pattern. 2. There are over 500 shark species, and most humans can only name 3 to 4. The shark you fear isn't representative of sharks as a whole. It's like being terrified of all dogs because you read about one dangerous breed. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. While dinosaurs were still figuring out how to be the dominant life form on land, sharks had already perfected the art of ocean living. 450 million years. That's not a typo. That's 450 million years of continuous existence. Think of it like this. If the entire history of Earth were condensed into a 24-hour day, sharks would have been in the oceans since about 10 p.m. at night, and they're still here in the morning, watching the sun come up. Every single day. For 450 million years. Unchanged. Perfected. Eternal. Dr. Richard Dawkins, the evolutionary biologist, has written extensively about design in nature. How evolution creates solutions so elegant that they appear designed by intelligence. Sharks are his prime example. Their body shape, Their sensory systems, their behavioral patterns, everything about them is optimized. There's almost no wasted motion, no wasted energy. And here's what should make you feel peaceful about this. If sharks were actually the killing machines we portray them as, they would have wiped out every fish in the ocean millions of years ago. The fact that the ocean is still teeming with life tells us something profound about shark restraint. They're not mindless eating machines. They're balanced predators operating in a balanced system. Sharks survived 5 mass extinction events: the Ordovician extinction, the late Devonian, the Permian, which killed 96% of all marine life, the Triassic-Jurassic, and the Cretaceous-Paleogene, which killed the dinosaurs. And sharks, they swam through all of it. They adapted, they endured. This isn't luck. This is evidence of a creature so fundamentally well designed by nature that it simply works. #3. Sharks have survived 5 mass extinctions events that killed 70 to 96% of all life on Earth. If they were reckless killers, they would have starved themselves to extinction during their own food supply collapse. Their existence proves they're sustainable, balanced, and wise. Here's something that sounds like science fiction but is absolutely real. Sharks can sense electrical fields. Not just sense them, they can detect electrical fields as small as 5 nanovolts per centimeter. Let that sink in. Nanovolts? That's 1/1000th of a volt. Dr. Carl Michin, Adrian, the Dutch neurobiologist, spent his career studying shark electroreception, and his findings revolutionized our understanding of these creatures. He discovered that sharks possess specialized organs called the ampullae of pores around their head and snout that can detect these minuscule electrical fields generated by the muscle contractions of other organisms. Every living thing in the ocean generates a tiny electrical signature, and sharks can read it like we read a book. Think of it like this. Imagine if you had a sense that could detect the heartbeat of a fish a football field away in complete darkness through murky water without ever seeing it. That's what a shark can do. But here's the calming part. This sensory precision means they don't need to be reckless. They can navigate their world with such accuracy and awareness that they know exactly what's around them at all times. They're not hunting blindly. They're hunting with perfect information. And the sensory gifts don't stop there. Sharks have what's called an olfactory bulb that can detect 1 drop of blood in an Olympic swimming pool. Let me be clear about what that actually means, though. A shark doesn't suddenly go into a feeding frenzy the instant they smell a drop of blood. They investigate, they approach cautiously. They're methodical. In fact, research shows that sharks often refuse food when offered in aquariums. They need the hunt, the pattern, the ritual. The lateral line system, a series of pressure-sensitive organs running along their body, allows them to detect the tiniest vibrations in water. A struggling fish from 300 feet away can be detected by the waves it creates. Again, this means knowledge, precision, control. These aren't weapons of mindless aggression. They're instruments of perfect awareness. #4. Sharks can detect 1 drop of blood in an Olympic swimming pool and sense electrical fields of 5 nanovolts. They navigate using a sensory system so advanced, it's like they're in dialogue with the ocean itself. This is beautiful, not terrifying. This is one of my favorite shark facts because it's both mysterious and deeply peaceful. Most sharks cannot stop moving. They must constantly swim forward, or they will sink and drown. This seems like a curse. Right. Imagine never being able to stop moving or you die. But let me show you why. This is actually one of the most beautiful adaptations in nature. Unlike fish, sharks don't have swim bladders, those air-filled organs that allow other fish to hover motionless in the water. Instead, sharks have oil-rich livers that provide buoyancy, but because they're still slightly heavier than water, they need to keep moving. Their pectoral fins act like airplane wings. As they swim, water passes over these fins, creating lift, keeping them suspended. But here's where it gets interesting. Some sharks, the angel sharks, for example, have actually evolved a different strategy. They spend most of their time resting on the ocean floor. The bamba shark, the wabagong, the nurse shark, these species are essentially bottom dwellers. They rest. They wait. They don't need to be in constant motion. Yet we never hear about them because they don't fit the narrative we've constructed. and even the sharks that must keep swimming have evolved what might be called meditation in motion. Dr. David Sims at the University of Exeter conducted research using satellite tags and acoustic monitors on great white sharks, and he discovered that these creatures have predictable, cyclical movement patterns. They swim in roots, rhythmically, almost like a routine they've perfected. Think of it like this. Imagine if your daily walk was so perfectly choreographed that you could do it with your eyes closed in complete calm. That's what shark swimming is. It's not frantic hunting. It's methodical, rhythmic, almost meditative movement through three-dimensional space. #5. Sharks don't sleep like we do, but they engage in rhythmic swimming patterns that are so predictable and meditative, they're almost a form of meditation. Movement becomes their peace. Here's what will fundamentally change how you think about shark danger. Sharks are metabolically efficient to the point of being lazy. They don't need to eat very often. A large shark might eat once a month, sometimes even less frequently. A human, by contrast, needs to eat every single day. Think about this from a behavioral standpoint. If I asked you to describe the behavior of a creature that eats once a month, what would you say? Would you say it's aggressive? Hungry? Frantic? No. You'd say it's methodical. Patient, conserving energy. Precisely what a shark is. Most sharks are not warm-blooded like mammals. They're what we call ectothermic, or cold-blooded, meaning their body temperature matches the water around them. This is actually a genius energy conservation strategy. They don't waste calories maintaining body heat. They work with their environment rather than against it. Dr. Ransom Myers at Dalhousie University conducted extensive research on shark energy expenditure and found that most shark species expend surprisingly little energy relative to their size. They're not constantly hunting. They're gliding. They're cruising. They're existing in a state of energy balance with their environment. It's actually the opposite of the frantic, aggressive behavior we imagine. And here's the most fascinating part. Because sharks have such efficient metabolisms, they grow slowly and live a very long time. Some species of sharks live 200 years or longer. A Greenland shark, one of the longest-lived vertebrates on Earth, can live for over 400 years. We're talking about creatures that might have been born before the Titanic sank and still be alive today. They move slowly through their existence because they have the luxury of time. Number Y. Sharks eat once a month or less, live 200 to 400 plus years, and have metabolic rates so efficient they're practically living on They're not hunting machines, they're long-lived, patient philosophers of the deep. For decades, we've treated sharks as robotic eating machines, stimulus-response creatures with no higher thinking. But the science is telling us something different. Sharks are smart, not smart for a fish, genuinely smart. Dr. Eugenie Clark conducted experiments where she trained sharks using classical conditioning. She would ring a bell before feeding them, and eventually the sharks would come to the bell even without food. That's learning. That's memory. That's cognition. More recent research has shown that some shark species demonstrate problem-solving abilities. They can navigate mazes. They can remember and distinguish between different shapes and colors. They show curiosity and playful behavior. A nurse shark in captivity once learned to come to the glass when a specific person approached, ignoring other people. That's not instinct. That's recognition. That's relationship. Think of it like this. Imagine a creature so intelligent that it learns your routine, recognizes you individually, and chooses to interact with you. That's what sharks do. They're not mindless. They're thoughtful. They're observant. They're Some shark species also demonstrate what researchers call Machiavellian intelligence, the ability to understand social hierarchies and navigate complex social structures. They have dominance hierarchies. They remember individual rivals and allies. They plan their movements strategically. #7. Sharks learn, remember, solve problems, and recognize individual humans. They're not robotic predators. They're thinking creatures capable of choice, preference, and even playfulness. Here's something that will completely reframe your understanding of sharks as creatures of care and devotion. Many sharks don't lay eggs. They birth live young. Not only that, many species practice what we might call parental investment. Some shark species are ovoviviparous, meaning the eggs develop inside the mother and the babies are born alive. But here's the beautiful part. In some species, the developing pups are actually nourished by a structure similar to a placenta. The mother is literally feeding her babies, one at a time, before they're even born. The sand tiger shark is famous for this. The strongest pup sometimes even eats its siblings in the womb. It sounds brutal, but it's actually a form of natural selection happening in utero. Think of it like this. Imagine a mother so devoted to her offspring that she's feeding them through her own body before they're even born. That's not the behavior of a mindless predator. That's the behavior of a creature capable of care and sacrifice. And reproductive cycles in sharks are long and slow. Many sharks don't reach sexual maturity until they're decades old. Some, not until they're 50, 60, 70 years old. They don't have quick, rapid reproduction cycles like fish. They have slow, methodical breeding strategies focused on producing fewer but stronger offspring. This slower reproductive cycle is actually an indicator of intelligence and sophistication. Creatures that produce 10 million offspring at a time don't need to think about parenting, but creatures that produce a few dozen offspring over an entire lifetime, those creatures need strategy. They need memory. They init care. #8. Many sharks practice internal fertilization and birth-live young, with some species literally feeding their babies through a placenta-like structure. This isn't a mindless predator. This is maternal devotion encoded in biology. Let's talk about that diversity I mentioned earlier. Over 500 species of sharks, each one adapted to a specific ecological niche, each one solving the problem of ocean living in a completely different way. The hammerhead shark has a head shaped like a hammer, not because it looks cool, but because it spreads out their sensory organs, ampullae, of Lorenzini like a metal detector, allowing them to sweep the ocean floor and find prey with ridiculous precision. It's biomechanical genius. The thresher shark has a tail that can be as long as its body. It uses this tail to herd schools of fish into tight balls, then sweeps through them like a baseball player. But here's the thing, many thresher sharks are relatively small and eat small prey. They're not apex predators. They're specialists. The wobbegong is a bottom-dwelling carpet shark that looks like an ornate piece of living seaweed. It sits on the ocean floor and waits, sometimes 4 hours. It's patience personified. Not every shark is a hunter in the classical sense. Many are ambush predators. Think of it as meditation turned into a hunting strategy. The basking shark and whale shark are filter feeders. They're massivas, large as bus's boot. They feed on They literally swim through the water with their mouths open, straining out tiny organisms. They're the marine equivalent of whales, and they're completely harmless to humans. No teeth worth mentioning. No aggression. Just gentle swimming and filter feeding. And then there's the goblin shark, a deep-sea creature with a long snout and protruding teeth that looks straight out of a nightmare. But it lives in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean and was practically unknown to humans until very recently. It's slow, it's adapted to crushing pressure and darkness, and it's just existing in its own world. #9. Over 500 shark species represent 500 different solutions to ocean living. Filter feeders, ambush predators, specialists, but the diversity is astounding and proves sharks aren't killers, they're adaptations. Here's something that will make you appreciate sharks in an entirely new way. They're not just predators, they're architects of entire ocean ecosystems. Remove sharks from an ocean, and the entire system begins to collapse. Sharks are what ecologists call a keystone species, a creature whose presence is disproportionately important to the health of the entire ecosystem. They're like the keystone in an archer move it, and the whole structure falls. Here's a perfect example. In the 1990s, fishermen began overhunting cownose rays in the Atlantic Ocean. Cownose rays don't have many natural predators, but they do have one. Sharks, particularly tiger sharks and bull sharks, hunt and kill cownose rays, keeping their population in check. When shark populations declined due to overfishing, cownose ray populations exploded. These rays eat bay scallops and other shellfish, devastating commercial shellfish industries. One fishery collapsed, then another. Scientists traced the problem back. No sharks meant too many rays, meant dead shellfish. The ecosystem was out of balance. Think of it like this. Sharks are the ocean's immune system. They're not there to hunt indiscriminately. They're there to maintain balance, to keep populations stable, to prevent any single species from overwhelming the system. When we remove them, we're damaging the ocean at a level we don't fully understand yet. Dr. Ransom Myers' research demonstrated that shark declines have cascading effects throughout entire food webs. Smaller predators that sharks would normally eat explode in population. Those smaller predators then eat the young of commercially important fish species, collapsing those fisheries too. It's a domino effect that scientists are only now beginning to understand. 10. Sharks aren't mindless killers there. The ocean's immune system, maintaining balance in ecosystems, we're only beginning to understand. Remove them, and entire ocean food webs collapse. For a moment, I want you to think about where your fear of sharks actually comes from. Be honest. Did you develop a genuine, personal experience with a shark that traumatized you, or did you watch a movie? Read a headline. See a TV documentary with dramatic music and ominous visuals. Our fear of sharks is largely cultural, not biological. It's manufactured. It's been sold to us by entertainment media, by sensationalist news reporting, by our human tendency to fear what we don't understand. Think about the timeline. For thousands of years, humans coexisted with sharks. Indigenous peoples, island communities, fishing cultures, they lived alongside sharks without the paralyzing fear we experience today. Then Jaws came out in 1975, and suddenly, sharks became monsters. It's fascinating how a piece of fiction shaped global psychology. Steven Spielberg created a work of art, a brilliant film, but one based on a fictional narrative that humans understood was false, even while watching it. Yet somehow, that fiction became our default understanding of sharks. We let Hollywood rewrite biology. But here's the thing that should comfort you. Statistically, you are safer in the ocean than in a car on a highway. You are safer from sharks than from horses, dogs, or jellyfish. Your fear is not rational. It's conditioned, and once you understand that, you can begin to unlearn it. And there's something almost beautiful about that. There's something profound about realizing that your fear was never rooted in reality. It was rooted in stories. And now, with this knowledge, you can rewrite that story. You can choose a different narrative. Your fear of sharks isn't based on biology or statistics. It's based on fiction and conditioning. Understanding this truth is liberating. Let me tell you something that will make you feel simultaneously insignificant and deeply connected to something larger than yourself. The water you drink has been cycled through the ocean for millions of years. That water has been drunk by sharks, by dinosaurs, by the earliest fish. Your body is made of atoms that have been part of oceans, forests, creatures, and ecosystems for the entire history of Earth. You are not separate from the natural world. You are not separate from the ocean. You are not separate from sharks. You are made of the same atoms, shaped by the same physical laws, participating in the same cycles of life and death and transformation that have governed life on Earth for 4 billion years. The oxygen in your lungs, much of it was created by ocean plankton. The calcium in your bones, it came from coral reefs and shellfish that have existed because sharks maintained the balance of the ecosystem. Even your body's salt content reflects the salinity of the ocean from which all life emerged. When you understand that you are not separate from nature, when you understand that you are nature experiencing itself, everything changes. Fear loses some of its power. Awe takes its place. Connection replaces distance. Sharks have been perfecting the art of ocean living for 450 million years. They've done this without weapons, without technology, without the arrogance of dominion. They've done it through adaptation, restraint, balance, and time. They're not our enemy. They're our ancient cousins, showing us a way of being in the world that we've largely forgotten. You are made of atoms from the ocean. You are a descendant of the creatures that first left the sea. Sharks are not your enemy there, your ancient relatives showing you a different way of being. I want to ask you a serious question, and I want you to answer it honestly, even if just to yourself. Are you living the way you want to live? Most people aren't. We live in constant struggle. We're fighting against time, against other people, against our own biology. We're stressed, overstimulated, exhausted. We're operating from a place of scarcity and fear. Sharks have something to teach us about this. They move through their world with complete acceptance. They don't fight the current. They use it. They don't rage against their limitations. They work within them. They eat when they need to. They rest when they can. They exist in rhythm with their environment rather than in opposition to it. A shark doesn't fear tomorrow. It exists fully in the present moment. It doesn't worry about what other sharks think of it. It follows its patterns, its roots, its instincts, and it moves forward with the certainty of a creature that has survived 450 million years of change. That could be you. Not literally a shark, obviously, but metaphorically. You could choose to move through your life with that kind of certainty, that kind of presence, that kind of acceptance of what is rather than constant fighting for what might be. The fact that you're watching this right now, lying in bed or sitting quietly, trying to find peace, that's the beginning of shark wisdom. You're slowing down. You're accepting rest. You're choosing presence over productivity. You're already on your way. Sharks don't fight their nature or their limitations. They work within them and find peace. What would change if you did the same? We started this journey with a shocking revelation. Sharks aren't the monsters we think they are. But I want to take us deeper than that. I want to show you that everything we've talked about, all the science, all the facts, all the biomechanical genius points to something even more profound. Nature is not cruel. This is perhaps the most important thing I can tell you. We've been raised on narratives of survival of the fittest, of constant competition, of a natural world, red in tooth and claw. But that's not what the science shows us. The science shows us a natural world of extraordinary balance. Predators don't hunt recklessly, because that would destroy their own food supply. They hunt sustainably, like wise managers of a renewable resource. Sharks don't eat too many fish, because that would lead to their own starvation. They maintain populations because they've been selected by 450 million years of evolution to do exactly this. Competition exists, yes, but cooperation exists, too. Symbiosis, mutualism, ecosystems that function with astonishing efficiency and beauty. A coral reef is not a place of constant warfare. It's a city of millions of organisms living in delicate, intricate cooperation. And you are part of this. Your body is a coral reef. You are hosting millions of bacteria, billions of viruses, countless organisms living in symbiosis with you. You are not a separate creature fighting against nature. You are nature, and nature is you. This is not poetry. This is biology. Here's the revelation that should change everything. If nature is fundamentally cooperative, fundamentally balanced, fundamentally peaceful in its deepest patterns, then the violence we see is not inevitable. It's not the natural state. It's a deviation from the deeper patterns that govern life. This means your anxiety is not reflecting reality. Your fear is not rational. Your sense that the world is fundamentally dangerous is not supported by the science. The world is fundamentally balanced. It's fundamentally cooperative. It's fundamentally ordered toward life, not death. And if that's true about the ocean and about ecosystems, couldn't it also be true about human society? Couldn't it be true about your own life? That beneath the chaos and conflict, there are deeper patterns moving toward harmony. Sharks have been teaching this lesson for 450 million years. They've shown us that you don't need to be aggressive to survive. You don't need to be ruthless. You don't need to consume more than you need. You just need to be good at what you do. And then you need to stop. Rest. Exist. Let the system balance around you. The great white shark doesn't think about tomorrow. It doesn't worry about whether it's good enough. It doesn't compare itself to other sharks. It simply is. It moves through the water with the certainty of a creature that belongs exactly where it is, doing exactly what it was shaped by 450 million years of evolution to do. And right now, in this moment, as you lie in bed or sit quietly somewhere, you can choose to do the same. You can stop fighting. You can stop worrying. You can stop comparing. You can simply be. You can be as certain in your place in this world as a shark is in the ocean. Because you belong here. Your atoms are made of stardust and ocean salt and the bodies of creatures that have lived and died for billions of years. You are as much a part of this world as the shark, the whale, the coral, the ocean itself. As you drift off to sleep tonight, or as you continue resting, know that somewhere in the ocean, sharks are gliding through the water with movements perfected over 450 million years. They're not thinking. They're just being. They're not worried. They're just present. And in their peace, you can find your own. The ocean has been calming humans for thousands of years. The sound of waves, the vastness of it, the knowledge that something ancient and enduring continues on, indifferent to our worries. Now, knowing what we know about sharks, that they're not monsters, they're not competitors, they're not a threat, or can find even deeper peace in that connection. You are safe. Safe, not because sharks are harmless, though they mostly are. You are safe because you understand now that the world is not fundamentally dangerous. You are safe because you are part of a system that has been maintaining itself for billions of years. You are safe because you belong. Before we close, I want to thank you for being here, for taking this journey with me, for being open to having your mind changed, your fears reframed, your understanding deepened. That takes courage in a world that often wants us to stay stuck in our comfortable narratives. If this video has resonated with you, if you feel that shift from fear to awe, from anxiety to peace, please hit that subscribe button. There are so many more journeys like this one waiting for you. There are so many more ancient truths buried in nature waiting to teach us about ourselves. Comment below. Tell me where you're from. Tell me what fact blew your mind the most. Tell me how you feel differently about sharks now. Tell me if you've ever seen one and what that experience was like. Connect with this community. You're not alone in your desire for peace, for understanding, for connection to something larger than yourself. And most importantly, be gentle with yourself as you fall asleep tonight. Know that you are part of something ancient and enduring. Know that billions of years of evolution have shaped you perfectly for this moment. Know that you are enough, just as you are.